Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to our Sunday series on the attributes of God. And today, the attribute that we are going to study, and also next week too, is that God is holy. God is holy. Now what does that mean, boys and girls? That God is holy. Does it mean that God has lots of holes in him? Like when you get a holy sock? No, it doesn't. Boys and girls, what the Bible means when it says that God is holy means that God is completely distinct. God is special. God is unique. God is completely separated from anything that you can imagine. God is transcendent over his creation. He's completely outside of the universe, outside of time, outside of space. He's not made out of physical things. Seeing that God created the universe, God is completely separate. God is holy. God is special. And God makes sure in the Bible, as we've seen him interact with people in the past, that God protects his holiness. That God does not want people to get mixed up or confused and start to think that God is like a person or like an animal. God is completely separate from his creation, and he's completely separate from evil. There is no corruption in God. God is completely holy. He's completely pure. He's completely love and justice and goodness. There's no evil. There's no hint of wrongdoing in God. For our Bible story today, we're going to go back to the book of Exodus and look at the story of the golden calf in a little bit more detail. If you remember, boys and girls, God used Moses to bring the people of Israel out of slavery in Egypt. God afflicted the Egyptians with 10 plagues, and finally, Pharaoh let the slaves go. And the people followed Moses out into the wilderness to Mount Sinai. And that's where God wanted to meet with the people, and he wanted to deliver to them his law. Well, the people had been in Egypt for so long, many of them had forgotten or had lost the knowledge of what it meant to worship God. And all they knew was the worship of the Egyptian idols around them. And when they got to that mountain, they encountered God in a new way, in a way that was very different for them. First of all, Mount Sinai burned with fire on the top. It quaked and there was lightnings, and God said, "This is a holy mountain. Do not touch it. Do not approach to the mountain. This is where my presence is right now, and you are to stay away." And then God had all the people gathered to the base of the mountain, and God audibly spoke to the people the 10 Commandments. In a loud, booming voice, God declared to them his 10 Commandments. And then God called Moses to come up to the top of the mountain, and God would give Moses his law. Well, Moses went up to the top of the mountain, and the people at the base of the mountain, they waited. A day went by, 2 days went by, a whole week went by. Moses didn't come down. 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by. The people were starting to wonder, what happened to Moses? Did he die? Maybe he got killed by lightning. There's fire burning up there. Maybe he tripped and fell over a crevice. 5 weeks went by. No word from Moses. And the people came to Aaron and they said, "Aaron, you're Moses' brother. We have no idea what happened to Moses. He's gone. And we need something to lead us to the promised land. So, Aaron, we want you to make a representation. We want you to make a visible object for us to follow, to lead us, to be our gods. Just like the Egyptians had statues and idols portrayed, we want something visible to represent God that can lead us into the promised land. Well, boys and girls, God is very different. The true God is very different from the idols that people make. You see, those Egyptians, they had made idols that were like people, that were corrupt or did evil, that looked like animals or people. But God is not like that. God is holy. God is completely different from his creation. There is no statue that you can make that represents God in any way. God is completely transcendent from all of his creation. Well, so Aaron told them, well, bring me gold. And they had gold earrings, so they brought Aaron gold, and Aaron melted down the gold, and he made it into a molten calf. He graved it and made a statue of a baby cow. A statue of a baby cow. And then the people proclaimed, Israel, look, here are your gods that brought you out of Egypt. This is Jehovah that we can follow, that will take us into the promised land. Tomorrow, let's have a feast. And Aaron said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord, to the God of Israel. So the next day, they did just that. They got up. They made sacrifices on an altar to the cow. They said that they were worshiping the Lord, but they weren't. Then they had a wild party. Boys and girls, do you think that it's okay to worship a statue of a baby cow and say that that is the God of the Bible, the God of heaven and earth, the Creator? No, it is not okay, boys and girls. It is not okay to make a statue and worship it as God. It's not okay to make a picture of Jesus and pray to this picture and pretend that that represents Jesus. Boys and girls, God is so holy. He is so completely distinct and different from his creation that to make a representation of him is an insult to his holiness. Because God is completely transcendent from all of his creation. Now, boys and girls, just 5 weeks before this, God had spoke the 10 Commandments to the people audibly. Do you know what commandment number 2 is? Commandment number 2 says, Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven, in earth, under the earth. No representations, no statues, no pictures, and bowing down and worshiping them or serving them. The second commandment says, no, do not make representation of God. Do not make statues and worship them. That is an insult to God. Well, boys and girls, these people were worshiping this golden calf and claiming that they were worshiping God. What do you think God thought about that? Well, up on the mountain, God spoke to Moses and said, Moses, get down from this mountain. Those people have corrupted themselves. And God would have destroyed the nation of Israel right then and there. But Moses interceded for those people. But, as we're going to learn later, the people that refused to stop worshiping that golden cow did get destroyed. So Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets of stone in his hand on which God had graven the law into them. He had written the law on those stones. But when Moses saw that statue, he saw the people dancing and having a wild party. Moses was so angry. He was so angry, he threw those tablets down and broke them. Moses could not believe this, what was going on. This was wrong. Moses destroyed the idol, ground it into powder. And Moses cried out and he said, who is on the Lord's side? And gathered unto him the whole tribe of Levi. They knew that this was wrong. They knew that this was idolatrous nonsense. And Moses said, go through and destroy in the camp. What were they to destroy? Well, Moses had made it very clear that the worship of this golden calf was wrong and evil. And yet some were still carrying on with their wild party, with their sacrifices and with their worship of the golden cow, pretending that it was God. And those people died that day. 3,000 of them. Well, that's terrible, you might say. Yeah, that is terrible. But boys and girls, God is holy. God is completely separate from evil. God is completely separate from wrongdoing. And God cannot just go on and allow people to do evil in his name. God cannot tolerate people to do evil and claim that it is worship of him. God says, no, that is wrong because I am holy. Wow. Boys and girls, God is completely separate from sin. God is completely separate from his creation. God is holy.